Welcome to the Marksman website by Surefire Ag. We'll start by logging in to our Marksman account. When we first log in, we get a list of all of our Marksman controllers, as well as a map showing their location. This list is our inventory as a dealer. At the top of the screen, we see the name of our dealership. In the middle, we see a list of our controllers, in this case, just the one, and then down below, we see that controller pinpointed on a map. We can zoom in and out to find its exact location. We can hover over controllers in the list or on the map to find out which goes where. In the controller list, we see some helpful information. First and foremost, the status of a given controller, its name, what field it's in, its current flow rate, its tank level, and its cellular connectivity. The status section of our controller list shows us whether or not the device has checked in with the Marksman service recently. In this case, it has, and it is online, as well as the pump status, whether or not the pump is running or stopped. In this case, it's running and shows a little play symbol. Also on this screen, we see a tab for customer controllers. This will provide us a list of any controllers that we have sold and assigned off to a customer. When we click on one of the controllers in our list, it brings us to that controller's dashboard. At the top of the controller page, we see 5 tabs depending on what permission level we have. The first is the dashboard, showing the controller's most recent information. Second is settings, letting us change the various settings for a given controller. Third is trends, showing us a graph of historical data. Fourth is logs, letting us download that data as an Excel file that we can then view on our own or open in other applications. And the final one is about, showing us some relevant information for debugging and troubleshooting. The controller dashboard shows us the most recent information for a given controller. In this case, it shows us the name, its phone number, its current field, its current team, and an option to request new data. Underneath this top section, we see some alerts. These alerts will give us any relevant information as well as any issues the controller may be facing. In our case, it's telling us that the pump is running, power is on, the controller is online and connected to the service, the rate set point is 35, the chemical is set to Surefire Chem, and the device has been set to manual control mode. Underneath this alert section, we see our gauges for chemical flow rate, chemical pressure, water flow rate, water pressure, PWM, and tank level. Beyond these gauges, we see a section for our scheduled stop and start, water total, controller total, and batch total if we would have batch mode enabled. Underneath that, we also see a zoomed-in map of where the controller is located. This very bottom section, we see a little note reminding us when the device was last updated and the local time. The Settings tab lets us change settings for a given controller. This page is split into 6 sections: Run Settings, Batching, Scheduling, Field, Controller Info, and Settings History. The Run Settings section lets us set the chemical rate set point, our units, the current chemical that we're running, and allows us to start or stop the device. If we change these settings, we want to be sure to click Save Run Settings, and this will send them to the device. The Batching section allows us to turn on batch mode, set a batch set point, or reset our batch total. The Scheduling section lets us schedule a time for the controller to start or stop the pump. If we want the controller to start the pump automatically, we need to select Scheduled Start, pick a time in 24-hour time. In this case, it's set to 5:52 to start it, and then decide whether we want this to repeat every day or just to schedule this start once. To schedule a stop time, the operation is the same. When you're done, just click Save Scheduling Settings. The Field section would let us set the field number on the device. In this case, this team only has one field with a name of my field and a field number of 1, and the controller is already set on it. If there were multiple fields on this team, we could select from it here and hit Save Field Settings. The Controller Info section lets us change miscellaneous information about the controller, such as its name, the size of the tank that it's hooked up to, and lets us reset the controller chemical total and water total. The Settings History section shows us a list of the recent commands sent to a controller. In this case, this controller has only received one command, and it happened today. I did it, and the change was that I requested new data. If you have multiple people on a team, this feature can be very useful for figuring out what happened when. The Trends tab lets you view data on a graph from a given period of time from that controller. You can select a start date, start time, end date, end time, as well as use one of the 6 quick buttons to pick data from a relevant time. The data gets displayed in the graph down below, and you can select what data points you'd like to show up in the graph, such as chemical rate, set point, water rate, chemical pressure, water pressure, and PWM. You can also select the flow units. In the case of this controller, it hasn't been running for very long, so if I select all data, it'll take a moment and show me one data point that it's loaded, that the chemical rate was 23 gallons per hour at 5:54 p.m. on February 26th. The Logs tab lets us download any of the data that the controller has uploaded as a CSV file that we can open in Microsoft Excel. To decide what data you want to download, just pick a start date and end date, and then hit Download Log File. You can also use one of the 4 provided quick buttons. The About section shows us any miscellaneous information about a controller. For the most part, customers won't need to use this section of the controller page. For debugging and troubleshooting though, it may be useful to know what software version a given controller is running, when it was last updated, as well as various other settings. If you view a customer's controller, you will be able to see their dashboard and most recent information. But if you try to view their historical data, it will be limited to the past 2 weeks. This is for customer privacy, but for troubleshooting, you do get that 2-week window. To manage your account on the Marksman site, you can click your name at the top right and select Manage Account. This will allow you to change your name, email address, and password for your account, as well as set up any notifications. Notifications are team-specific, meaning that you can receive notifications for controllers in a given team. Simply put in your phone number at the bottom and select which notifications you'd like to receive, such as when a controller is turned on and off, when a pump is started or stopped, etc., and then hit Save Notification Settings. Your notification settings are specific to your current team. If you're a member of multiple teams, you can switch between them using the selector at the top and set notification preferences for a given team. To manage your team on the Marksman site, click your name at the top right and select the Manage Team option. On the Manage Team page, you should see a list of users on your team as well as the permissions they have. In this case, my team has 2 users, one named John Doe and a second named Zane Swaff. There are 4 permission settings that a user can have in a team: View Controllers, View Historical Data, Change Controller Settings, and Manage Team. View Controllers allows a user to view the controllers in your controller list and their dashboard. View Historical Data allows them to access the Logs and Trends tab of the controller page. Change Controller Settings allows that user to access the Settings tab of the controller page, as well as change settings such as rate and batching. Finally, Manage Team allows a user to add or remove users from the team, as well as change their permissions. To add a user, you can click the Invite User button at the bottom left. Simply add their email address here and click Invite User. Within a couple of minutes, they'll receive an email allowing to set up their account on your team. After you've changed permissions, be sure to click the Save Permissions button. If you'd like to remove a user from your team, simply click the red X to the right of the user's name. You'll be asked to confirm this action, and you can click OK if you're sure you'd like to remove them. After you remove a user, they'll no longer be able to access data related to your controllers. If you'd like to rename your team, click the little pencil to the right of your team's name. If you'd like to add some fields for your controllers, you can do this from the Manage Team page. Click the Fields tab at the top, and you should see a list of your current fields. In this case, I only have one field. Its field number is 1, and its name is my field. I can edit it by clicking the pencil to the right and delete it clicking the X as well. If I'd like to add a new field, I can add this field by giving it a field number, say 23, and a name, my other field. Now users with the Change Controller Settings permission can set controllers to be in my other field with field number 23. To get back to your controller list, click your name and then select the View Controllers button. If you've been invited to multiple teams, you can click on your name at the top right and select the Switch Teams button. This will allow you to switch between which team you want to have active. This can be very helpful if you're helping a customer set up their account, as dealers don't have the ability to manage a customer's team unless that customer invites the dealer explicitly. If you've been invited to the team and the customer has given you manage team permissions, you can then help them out and invite other users or change permissions. Again, a customer has to invite you explicitly before you can manage their team for them. As a dealer, you'll also see a link for your dealer control panel under your name. You should be given 4 options to manage your dealership. You can register a new controller you've received, you can assign a controller to a customer, you can unassign controllers from a customer, and you can create a new team for a customer. Registering a new controller will add it to your inventory. You can register multiple controllers at once by popping in their phone number. After you've added all the controllers you'd like to register to your team, you can hit the Register button. This will add the controllers to your inventory. You only need to do this process for brand new controllers that have not been assigned to any team yet. Assigning controllers moves them from your inventory to a customer's inventory. To assign a controller, we can select it from the list and then enter a customer email that we'd like to assign it to. After we've entered the customer's email, we can click the Assign to Customer button. If the customer is a member of multiple teams, we can select the team we'd like to assign it to from here. Be sure to get the customer's email address if you're going to assign them a controller. While assigning controllers to a customer, if you enter an email address of a customer that does not yet exist, you'll be given the option to go ahead and create a team for them. Unassigning controllers allows you to move the controller from the customer's inventory back into your inventory, whether it's for service or the end of a lease period. Simply click the controller from the list to select it, and then hit the Unassign button. You'll be asked to confirm this action, and if you're sure, it'll move that unit back into your inventory. If we unassign a controller from a customer's team, the customer will retain any data that ran while they owned that controller. The unit will show up as archived in the customer's controller list. In this case, we see a little archived icon to the left of the controller, as well as the word archive to the right. The device will no longer upload data to this customer, but they can view their own data, such as logs and trends. To create a team for a customer, we'll first have to pick a team name. The customer will see this name and they can change it at a later date, but it's useful to pick something such as the customer's last name or the organization that they work for. We'll also have to enter an email address for the team's administrator. This will be the first user who has the Manage Team permission and can add other users to the team as well as manage controllers. Finally, we can select some controllers from our inventory to start the team off with. When we're done, we can click the Provision button, and this will create the new customer team and send an email out to the customer immediately. That's everything you need to know to get up and running with your dealer account on the Marksman website.